Nothing derails the season quite like injuries, but the Sun Devils need to look out for more than just that in 2024.
You are Locked On Sun Devils, your daily podcast on the Arizona State Sun Devils. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Sun Devils podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Richie Bradshaw, and I will be your guide for everything Arizona State Sun Devils. A shout out to my everydayers who are here every day, and thanks for making us your first listen of the day. Don't forget to hit like, hit subscribe, and turn on notifications wherever you're getting your podcast. Stay in touch with the show by following me on Twitter at RichieBrads36 and the podcast at LO_Sun Devils. And if you haven't hit that subscribe button on YouTube yet, do me a favor, hit subscribe. We're trying to get to 1,000 before the season starts. We are at 829. Long ways to go, but I know we can do it with the best fans in the business. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more as the playoffs are, gone. Sports just aren't sporting like we want them to. But this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back in. On today's edition of the show, we ask the question, what could derail the season? And if we're being honest, there's a lot of stuff that could go wrong. You could have a meteor fall on your stadium. You could have some kind of suspension for doing illegal recruiting during a pandemic. There's a lot of stuff that can derail your season. But we're focusing on the stuff that is more in the realm of reality for the Sun Devils. And there's four that we're going to talk about, although one of them is kind of like an honorable mention because I don't know how much time I want to spend talking about it. And that's where we'll start the conversation. The number one thing that could derail the season for the Sun Devils, of course, is injuries. And look, we saw this last year. We saw exactly how bad injuries can be for a team that is rebuilding. Teams like Alabama or Georgia or Michigan or any other blue blood program, when they get injured, of course, they're going to take a hit. But more often than not, they have guys behind them to be able to bring up that are extremely talented or extremely young or super high upside, whatever it might be, and be able to replace those players. The Sun Devils did not have that luxury last year. They started off the year injured. They were already dealing with several guys behind the scenes that weren't 100% healthy. Then they get into the season, and it just gets worse. The problem of injuries exacerbates itself, and you end up with a year that was so bad. At one point, Kenny Dillingham said we couldn't even kick field goals because they didn't have enough offensive linemen. You were throwing passes to players that just weren't ready for the game yet. There were guys that were on defense that hadn't really seen significant snaps before and now were thrust into full-time positions. It just wasn't an ideal situation. It's a rebuilding program. You would like to have any kind of consistency to help establish that culture on the field. They established it off the field, but there's a lot of improvement that needs to be done from an actual playing standpoint. And we'll see how that works out this year. You can't predict injuries. That's nature of the game, but it's also just it happens. And there's times where you get really screwed with it, and there's times where you're really blessed and you don't have to worry about it. Sun Devils ran into that last year. Hopefully, they're going to turn the page going into this year, and we're going to deal with a much healthier roster that, quite frankly, has gotten much more talented. They have really high upside kids. They have depth. They have a lot of depth. They've got talented players that are coming in through the transfer portals, through the recruiting class, guys that are returning. It is a team that I have said before, and I'll say again, should go bowling this year. That being said, injuries could derail the season. But there's three other factors that could derail the season. First of all, we got to talk about the quarterbacks, because bad quarterback play could derail the season by itself. The Sun Devils did not have good quarterback play last year. As a team, the quarterback position only threw 7 touchdown passes against 13 interceptions. They, as a whole, were completing 55% roughly. Their yards per attempt was under 6. They were, for all intents and purposes, terrible trying to throw the football last year. And again, there's a lot of stuff that plays into it. The injuries were huge. You had 6 different players, including 2 non-quarterbacks, who threw a pass for you last year. It wasn't an ideal situation. Totally understand. You can't have that happen again this year. You need whoever your starting quarterback is to, at worst, manage the game. The great news here is the Sun Devils have a run game that has so much potential to be one of the best running games in the Big 12. You've got 6 different running backs who you could start and you would feel good about it. You have an offensive line that is perceived to be deeper and more talented. And you've got some receivers who can do a little bit to open up down the field and create plays. You've got everything in place for a quarterback to come in, manage a football game. You don't need whoever it is to throw for 4,000 yards and 30 touchdowns and complete 70% of their passes and turn the ball over less than 5 times. You don't need that. Do you want it? Yeah, of course you want it. You don't need it. What you need is someone to come out, be able to throw the ball when you need to throw the ball, be able to make plays when you need to make plays, score touchdowns, and don't turn the ball over. It's a very low bar, but it's exactly what the Sun Devils need. If you don't get that this year, you're going to have a really difficult time winning football games. Typically, more often than not, I'm going to say something very controversial. Having a bad quarterback makes you a bad football team. What a concept, right? The Sun Devils cannot have bad quarterback play. Whether it's Sam Leavitt, or it's Jeff Sims, or it's Trenton Bourguet, or it's Navi Bruzon, or anybody else. You cannot have bad quarterback play this upcoming season. It's so easily going to destroy everything that you're trying to build. If you have a quarterback that comes out and completes under 60% of his passes and has more interceptions and touchdowns, that's going to ruin everything. You can have the greatest run game in the Big 12, and you can have a dynamic defense, which we'll talk about in a little bit. If you have bad quarterback play, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how good your run game is. It doesn't matter how good your defense is. There are very few exceptions to this, and I can't think of any off the top of my head. The Sun Devils have to get better at the quarterback position. Now, if they do that, then you are looking at a team that is going to be not just significantly better than last year, but more fun to watch. They're obviously a more talented team, so they're going to be finding themselves winning more football games, and they could be really building that momentum to be even better in 2025 and 2026. The quarterback play is so instrumental in the success for this year and potentially the success of years to come. But of course, bad quarterback play, that'll derail the season quick. It'll derail the season almost as fast as injuries will. Injuries are a part of the game. You can't predict them. Quarterback play is entirely within your realm of possibilities to control. If you cannot control the way that your quarterbacks come out and play the game, you're going to lose a lot of football games this year. Like I said, it doesn't matter who it is under center, more than likely Sam Leavitt. At worst, they need to be a game manager. But they're going to need some help from the people around them, and we'll talk about them in just a moment. This is the Locked On Sun Devils podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Passion, drive, patience, the formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED lights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Wherever you get those podcasts, hit like, hit subscribe, turn on notifications so you get an update whenever we post new content. I appreciate you for tuning in and making us your first listen of the day. Shout out to my everydayers who are here every day. And if you have not hit that subscribe button on YouTube yet, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. We're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers before the season starts. We got a long ways to go, but I know that the Sun Devil faithful can easily get me there, and we'll, of course, find a way to celebrate. Back into our conversation and ways that the Sun Devils season could be derailed. We talked about injuries. We talked about quarterback play. It's a lot that could go wrong. That would basically end your season. But there is something that could really affect the way the quarterback plays. The play calling. Last year, first 3 weeks of the season, ASU started 1-2. They were barely 1-2. They almost lost to Southern Utah. They went, what's that end up being? 2-9 or 2-8 in Pac-12 play, right? Yeah, 2-8 in Pac-12 play. It was, no, not 2-8. I can't do math right now. We'll figure it out later. They really struggled to do anything on the offensive side of the football. And part of that problem was the play calling. Weeks 1 through 3, the play caller was Beau Baldwin, the former offense coordinator of the team. He parts ways with ASU after a failed season. In comes Marcus Arroyo. Now, Marcus Arroyo is coming from, is it UNLV? And I believe he took a year off. What I've been told about Arroyo is there's going to be a lot of underneath action, potentially a lot of screens. Now, this isn't a big deal if it works. But if it doesn't work, you're going to be in a problem. Because this is the same issue they had with Beau Baldwin last year, was you were not able to get good enough play calling, not even consistent play calling. You just flat out did not get good play calling. And it led to Kenny Dillingham having to take over play calling duties in week 4. Kenny Dillingham is a very, very smart offensive mind, and he's somebody that Arizona State brought in to be their head coach because he could turn things around on the offensive side of the football, and you could start getting the kind of production that you hadn't seen in a handful of years, and what was going to get you back on track to winning more football games and potentially waking up that sleeping giant. You needed Kenny Dillingham in here. You bring him in. He says in year 1, look, I want to focus on the responsibilities as a head coach. I want really good coordinators to be able to call the plays. Kenny Dillingham has to help take over the offensive play calling because of how bad it was. Just call it as it is. I imagine Kenny Dillingham is still going to have a little bit of say with the offensive play calling. Now, of course, he gets final say. Of course. But I do think he's going to help a little bit. Not as much as last year because I feel like you need to go into this year under the impression that Marcus Arroyo is going to turn this thing around. You can't go in expecting to be disappointed, and you can't go in expecting the worst. You need to give Coach Arroyo the benefit of the doubt until further notice. If it works out, then great. And if we're being honest, I do think it works out. I really like Marcus Arroyo. I will gladly be wrong if it doesn't work out, because I am very confident that Marcus Arroyo is the right guy to get this offense back into a rhythm, get them in better position, and start winning football games offensively. But it could derail the season if it doesn't work out. It did that last year for the Sun Devils. You take away good play calling, and everything goes to crap. They could not do anything offensively. Injuries played a role in that. Quarterback play played a role in that. Excuse me. The play calling didn't do anyone any favors. There was so many offensive drives that lacked creativity, lacked the ability to move the football, and lacked the ability to threaten the defense. Defenses were nice and cozy and happy, just sitting there knowing that ASU wasn't going to be able to do anything. Through the air, on the ground, nothing. Having a good play caller is so important to this year. Nothing is more important than the quarterback play. But what's going to impact the quarterback play the most, it's going to be the play calling. Because you can have elite running backs and a really deep offensive line and some playmakers at receiver like the Sun Devils have. If the play calling's not there, that's going to throw a wrench into everything. And that's going to contribute to bad quarterback play. And when you get bad quarterback play, everything falls apart. It's a domino effect. You have the weapons here to make life a little bit easier. Make life a lot of bit easier. You've got plenty of weapons and talent and depth and a rock-solid young quarterback to lead the way. Everything is there for you. Now it's just a matter of doing something with it. And again, I am a fan of Marcus Arroyo, and I do think that Coach Arroyo is going to get this thing on track and is going to get the offense going in the right direction again. Get the offense to be able to keep up with the defense. Of course, the defense still needs to pull its weight too. We're going to talk about them in just a moment. This is the Locked On Sun Devils podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I love sports. I love them so much. I don't want them to stop, but there's no playoffs right now, and we're getting fewer games. Sports aren't sporting like I want them to, but FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open up the app and dream up bets whenever I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. Head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. One more time, wherever you get your podcast, hit like, hit subscribe, and turn on notifications so you get an update whenever we post new content. I appreciate you guys for tuning in and making us your first listen of the day. A special shout out to my everydayers who are here every day. And if you have not subscribed to YouTube yet, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. We're trying to get to 1,000 before the season starts. We got a long ways to go, but I know that we can do it, and we'll find a way to celebrate. I'm open to suggestions. The last way that this season can be derailed for the Sun Devils, we talked about quarterback play. We talked about play calling on the offense specifically. We talked about injuries. But there was another fatal flaw to this team last year. And if it rears its ugly head again, the Sun Devils are not going to win football games. You look at this defense, and it's a very good unit. Now, granted, you are replacing a lot of key players. BJ Green, Deshaun Mallory on the defensive line are gone. You are replacing Trey Brown at linebacker. In the secondary, you are replacing 4 of your 5 starters with Roe Torrance, Jordan Clark, D Ford, and Chris Edmonds all gone. That's a lot of starters. You have really good players returning, though. You have Prince Dorbaugh, you have Clayton Smith, and you have CJ Fight to plug in to your defensive line. Linebacker, Tate Romney is back. He's one of the young guns that we're really excited about. In the secondary, Shamari Simmons, your leading tackler, is back. You've got Xavier Alford, who is returning after having to sit out last year. And then you hit up the transfer portal and you brought in a lot of guys. You bring in Zach Swanson and Jeff Clark and Justin Wadley and Roman Petrie on the defensive line, plus more. Linebacker, you bring in Keyshawn Elliott, Zyrus Fiaseu, and Jordan Crook. In the secondary, you bring in LT Welsh, you bring in Javen Robinson, you bring in Kamari Wilson. There's young returning guys as well, like Montana Warren is back, Keith Abney, Keontae Bradley. You have a good recruiting class that comes in. The defense should be able to play well because they played really well last year with a misfit defense. Like it was a lot of guys that had never really secured, never really secured big roles in their previous destinations. It was a defense that truly overcame and overachieved in every way, every way, shape, and form. You are hoping it happens again this year. The good news is, in my opinion, it's a more talented unit. And there's a lot of players that could shine. That's all good and dandy. However, if you don't get turnovers, it doesn't matter. The final way this season can be derailed: no turnovers. That was the Achilles heel of this defense last year. They had a whopping 5 interceptions, 4 fumble recoveries. They did not have a turnover for the first month of the year. It was against USC that they got their first turnover, and I think that was week 5. And it was a botched snap. It wasn't even a forced turnover. Caleb Williams got a bad snap, put it on the ground, and Tate Romney fell on it. This is not a defense that was opportunistic last year. Now, they started getting a little better down the stretch, and you saw the potential of some guys that could really take a step forward. But it's not guaranteed. You lost some of your best talent on defense. You're bringing in guys to replace some of your best talent. That's already a very difficult ask. Replacing the BJ Greens and the Roe Torrances and the Jordan Clarks of the world is not going to be easy. You do have Clayton Smith. You do have Prince Dorbaugh. You do have Keyshawn Elliott and Cole Martin and Kamari Wilson that are going to come in and hopefully play big roles for you. It's not guaranteed, though, that things are going to work out. It's even less guaranteed that you can become a more turnover-prone defense this year. Of your turnovers that you had last year, nobody on the team had more than 1 interception. And then for what it's worth, you lost Ed Woods, Roe Torrance, and Trey Brown, who had those interceptions, had 3 of the 5. Shamari Simmons and Keith Abney are back. Of the fumble recoveries, Shamari Simmons is back with 2, Tate Romney's back, and CJ Fight is back. So of your 9 turnovers, you're losing 3 of them, which doesn't seem like a lot, but you really didn't have anyone that was super prone to forcing those turnovers besides Shamari Simmons, and he's back, so that's great news. It's going to be really, really hard to take a massive leap forward. If you double your turnovers from last year, I mean, that's That's insane to go from 9 to 18 in 1 year. Find a way to average a turnover a game. That's huge progress for a unit that is very good, by the way. But it's a tough ask. And if they don't get turnovers, then that's going to lead to long drives. The defense is going to get tired. The defense can only do so much when you're not able to force turnovers. Then they start giving up points, and the offense can't get on the field to counter. They don't get those extra possessions and opportunities that the turnovers would have given them. What if the play calling's bad too? Now the defense is right back on the field. That's what happened last year. ASU couldn't sustain drives on offense. What happens? A defense that was good gets tired because they're on the field so much, because ASU is definitively losing the time of possession battle, because ASU's offense is going 3 and out so much. The defense has to force turnovers. And this is true even if the offense is clicking. Even if the offense is winning time of possession, they're scoring points, and they're having sustained drives, even if they don't end up in points, enough to give the defense a break, you still have to force turnovers. It's a huge aspect of the game. You got to give your offense more opportunities. Let's say you're in a game, right, where ASU's winning the time of possession battle, but it's a 10-3 football game, and ASU is on the losing end of that. They're having good drives. They just can't finish the drives. Well, it doesn't matter how rested your defense is, because your offense needs help. They need extra opportunities. That's where the defense needs to be able to step in. The defense needs to deliver interceptions, fumble recoveries, whatever it is. Heck, you could score if you want. I'm good with a pick six or a scoop and score. But more than anything, you just got to find a way to give the offense more chances. For an offense that's going through a lot of change at quarterback, at offensive coordinator, they need as many reps as they can get. So by week 1, all the way till the Territorial Cup, you're hoping that the defense have given them enough opportunities and extra chances to get those reps through turnovers that they have improved enough to help you win football games. Defense has to do their part. It's not just about holding teams out of the end zone. It's about forcing turnovers. If the offense is turning the ball over a lot, that's already bad. If the defense can't force turnovers, it exacerbates the problem. The 3 ways that the Sun Devil season can be derailed this year: bad quarterback play, bad play calling, and an inability to generate turnovers. Of course, injuries are a part of that too, but I don't think that's fair to factor in. What are the ways you think the Sun Devil season could be derailed this upcoming year? Let me know in the comments. Hit me up on Twitter at RichieBrads36, the podcast at LO_Sun Devils. Wherever you're getting your shows, hit like, hit subscribe, and turn on notifications wherever you're getting your podcast. A shout out to my everydayers who are here every day. Thanks for making us your first listen of the day. And if you haven't subscribed to YouTube yet, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. Help us get to 1,000 subscribers before the season starts so we can find a way to celebrate as a channel together. I appreciate you guys so much. As always, you're the best fans in the world. We will continue to be bringing you the best Sun Devils content that is out there. We are back to Monday through Friday, everyday content. There's never been a better time to subscribe. I'll see you all next time. And until then, you keep it locked right here on Locked On Sun Devils.